Welcome to the Library of Humanity. About 5 days ago, I interviewed Guy McPherson talking about climate change, specifically abrupt climate change, meaning we discussed the possibility of most of humans dying within the next 10 years, by the year 2030 and or 2026. We didn't explicitly say that date in the interview, but from what I understand, Guy McPherson's science, or from his perspective, is that the human race will be dying off, and most large mammals will be dying off by the year 2026. From my perspective, I was trying to understand his point of view. That's exactly what I try to do in my channel here, is have wide, diverse perspectives about a wide variety of topics. And I think they're all pertinent to life and death. Specifically this topic, abrupt climate change, we're discussing human death. Because the fact is that you are going to die, and that we are going to die. Okay, we need to really consider our death. Like, you need to see right now that you really go into you and really question what is I? What is this I am that has been here since I was born, but is going to end, right? That's what I call the self, the separate self, the ego. That's what's going to die off. And the reason why some people are so reactive to this idea of abrupt climate change, perhaps, this is one reason, is that they're afraid of death. They themselves are afraid of death. And this is why I think it's very important for us to really dive into ourselves and ask why we are afraid of death. That's because we are in touch with our ego selves rather than our true big self or higher self or the true I. Okay, so here on this channel, I want us to really be able to dive into any perspective and be able to weigh it with radical open-mindedness. And that this phrase, radical open-mindedness, I've gotten from actualize.org, Leo Gura. Radical open-mindedness, I think, is the only way to live life. Because if we're going into life with small perspectives, that's when we have extreme thoughts. That's when we have extreme views and are unwilling to listen to a plethora of perspectives. And the plethora of perspectives, that is how you become a very educated / wise person, is seeing that all perspectives are a little bit right and a little bit wrong. Okay, so in my perspective, Guy McPherson's view is a little bit right and a little bit wrong. What he has right is that human beings are going to perish because of climate change, and those are the two main connections that we have, is climate change and human death. Okay, and in my opinion, death is not to be feared. There's lots of philosophers and mystics who have discussed this topic, that death is not to be feared because death is not different than life. Okay, so I want you to hear the wind in the background here as I'm on a Sunday stroll. That wind is both alive and it's death. Okay, it's this nowness. You hear the wind, you hear the dogs barking in the background, you watch people biking and walking on their Sunday. This is both life and death. Okay, death is not in the future and it's not in the past. It's actually right here, right now. And if you are skeptical of this, it's because you have not experienced death. Okay, I have experienced my ego dying. Okay, and there's many tools to experience this ego death. Okay, number one, you can meditate, and you become very good at meditation, and you watch your ego die day by day. So this is a long process, 50 years of meditation. Okay, I've only been going for about three years, 1 year very seriously, and meditation is going to be a lifelong skill. And meditation is going to be the main tool towards this ego death, where we no longer fear ourselves dying. Can you actually imagine that your body and your psychology continues to live, yet you, the ego, is dead? Okay, that's what happened to Jesus, that's what happened to Buddha, where they no longer cared about, they didn't see themselves as separate from the rest of the world, or the rest of the cosmos. okay? Because if you really look around while you're on a Sunday stroll like I am, there's actually no separation between anything at all, okay? This is where I think we need to bring our mindset, is that a lot of perspectives, including Guy McPherson's perspective, is based on separateness. It's a bias, okay? It's a human bias that there's separateness, and that we, our separate selves, are more important than anything else, okay? I want you to try to make an argument why are you more important than like a duck? Why are you more important than a blade of grass? Okay? We really want to think about this perspective, because really all of life and all of the universe is just one thing. And it's not a thing, it's actually one consciousness, or it's one existence, one existent, created by an intelligence that I would argue is divine. Same with this consciousness that we feel right now. This consciousness is here, this consciousness is what is shared between all beings, and this is what is one, and it's both alive and dead. Life and death is a fake duality, or a false sense of difference, okay? Another thing that I want to mention is Guy's, towards the end of the interview, we went beyond science and started discussing life in general. So in my perspective, Guy, when I talk about spiral dynamics, if you do not know what spiral dynamics is, please watch another episode. You can search spiral dynamics on YouTube. Here's the spiral of spiral dynamics. The attempt of spiral dynamics is to explain all of human history as well as the possibilities of the human future. We're starting at stage orange for our purposes, because stage orange is secularism, which is modern science and capitalism combined, which we started to see in the 1700s. We moved up to stage green with the hippie movement, where we started to see as the entire world, or all human beings, as our community, and that we have a community-oriented mindset instead of the individual-oriented mindset. And then we move up to stage yellow, where we have intellectuals with open hearts, seeing that all things are systems. So you see maybe geographers or philosophers might be stage yellow, thinking about possible solutions to the future problems of the human race. From my perspective, Guy has a very secular view of the world. When I asked him that whether the earth is conscious, he said, no, the earth is a system that's not conscious, okay? From my perspective, any system is conscious. Your brain is conscious because it's a system. The ecosystem is conscious because it's a system. The earth is conscious because it's a system. The universe is conscious because it's a system. So all systems are intelligent and conscious. And those are the two main aspects of any system that has separate parts. Okay? And the sum of the parts is more important than the parts themselves. Okay, that's why we need to think about the universe more often than we think about ourselves in order not to fear death. And that's the thing that's holding us back, is our fear of death. Okay, so little bit by little bit, we need to go beyond this fear in order to enter into more of like an eternal type happiness. Okay, so Guy's secularism is holding him back from being able to see these perspectives like the earth is conscious, because the earth is speaking to human beings to treat it well. Okay, it's speaking to us through beauty. Okay, in the interview we talked about beauty, and beauty is one way that the earth or God speaks to us to pay attention to the earth or to God or to the universe. Right? When you look out to the stars, why do you think they're so beautiful? Okay, it's because they have inherent value that human beings overlook because we're too worried about our little survival of our little body. Okay, it is important that we survive. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's more important to look at the holistic system of the universe, the holistic system of God, the holistic system of the earth. That is much more important, because that's where there's more eternal goodness, there's more eternal happiness. When we're so focused on our own little suffering and happiness, like whether we get ice cream tonight, or whether we have to wake up early for work, that is where suffering and happiness happen. This is a happiness with a small h, not a capital H. If you want eternal happiness, you no longer worry about the death of the ego, and you begin to focus on the universe and eternity, and where you start to see that life and death are the same. So you don't need to fear life, and you don't need to fear death. Okay. Another thing about Guy McPherson is that he, in spiral dynamics, is stage yellow. Okay, so I mentioned that he's secular stage orange. That's kind of the main thing, is that his science, or modern science in general, is modernity. Modernity is what I call stage orange in spiral dynamics. And he's much into that. A lot of us are stage green postmodernism. Now, Guy has not been exposed to much postmodernism in his life. However, at the end of the video, we were talking about love, and how all that is love at the end. When human beings die, all that will exist is love. Okay, that is a pretty stage green, also known as postmodern viewpoint, where all human beings have inherent value, and we need to love one another. That's a very open-minded stage green postmodern view. Now, Guy is not very much into stage green because he mentioned that he's not in touch with his emotions. That's one of the high negativity points of stage orange modernism, which is hypermasculine, where it's skeptical of the feminine, which is all about oneness and emotion and love and connectivity between all people. And Guy has not experienced that much in his life until only recently, when he's discussing abrupt climate change, where now he's thinking about love, emotions, connecting with others. So he's just entering into some of the stage green. Now, the one stage above that, so the order is orange, green, yellow. So stage yellow is all about connecting ideas and being intellectual, but you have a heart. So you have a brain, you have a smart brain that can also focus on the heart. So you actually combine the healthy aspect of stage orange with the healthy aspect of stage green. Now, most people I know do not have a healthy orange and a healthy green. They either have one or the other. They're either mostly stage orange or they're either mostly stage green. People who are stage yellow tend to be really interested in philosophy, science, art, religion, and all of the above, and they combine it and see them as the same ideas, right? Like, they see that art is actually talking about the same thing as math, because it's all wonderment. Stage yellow people look at the world and see it as a beautiful system that is completely connected with one another. And it's just full of systems, so you call it systemic thinking. And that's the heart of stage yellow. Now, most people are not stage yellow in our society at all. They have no stage yellow in them. Because in school, we don't talk about stage yellow, right? We don't talk about the wonderment of how all ideas are connected, right? We don't talk about how religion and science are actually talking about the same thing. We're all talking about beauty and mystery, right? Most people are not open to the fact that all religions, science, art, athletics, all of these things are talking about beauty and mysticism and morality and human greatness, right? There's really no separateness between any of these ideas or fields of study. Okay, so for me on my channel, I really try to advocate stage yellow, because that's why I try to talk about a wide variety of topics, because it's actually, all these topics are talking about the same thing, namely beauty, sadness, happiness, life, wisdom, all of these big values that I advocate. And so that would be kind of the healthy part of stage yellow, is when eventually you reach into the top stage, stage turquoise, where you see that the whole universe is one. and that the essence of the universe is consciousness and nothingness, and that's actually the same thing. Okay, and the way to reach turquoise is to meditate a lot and have a really wide variety of perspectives to see that all things are one. So that oneness, and really embodying that oneness, being oneness, right? Rather than seeing oneness as your philosophy of life, you actually live oneness, you live the universe, you let the universe into your heart, and then the universe becomes your guiding principle, or the guiding Tao, the guiding force in your life. But your life no longer is your life is the universe, right? Your life, it ends because your ego is ending. That is stage turquoise. And that's what I'm advocate that we go to on this channel. If you are very, very interested in this idea, again, it's called spiral dynamics. If you have any comments and concerns or questions, you can comment below. If you like the video, you can like it, but I'll be talking more about spiral dynamics in the future. I'll continue to talk about abrupt climate change, but really not the science behind it anymore. I'm really looking at human death and our mortality, and how do we go beyond our mortality by entering the consciousness, by entering stage turquoise oneness. So that's it. Have a good rest of your weekend. I'll see you next time.